The House That Whispered. A heavy fog settled over the town on the last night of October, swallowing the streets in a white, shifting silence. Detective Elias Grant received an anonymous letter that led him toward a forgotten corner of the map. At the edge of a dense forest stood Blackwood Lane, a narrow road winding toward a mansion that had not been lived in for nearly 5 decades. The place was avoided by everyone, but the letter insisted on his presence. The iron gate of the mansion creaked open as he approached, releasing a smell of rust and wet soil. The house rose ahead, like a corpse that had refused to decay, its windows broken and its walls blackened by years of neglect. A cold wind moved through the structure, making the old wood moan as though the house were breathing. Inside, the air was stale. Dust floated like fine ash in the light of his torch. The floorboards sagged under his weight, and each step echoed through the hollow rooms. Portraits lined the main hall images of the long-lost Rutherford family, each face carefully painted but now vandalized, the eyes gouged out. A tall staircase led to the upper floors, where the darkness grew thicker, almost physical. As the night deepened, the atmosphere inside the house changed. The walls emitted faint, unidentifiable sounds like whispers trapped within the plaster. Shadows shifted in unnatural ways, stretching across the walls as if alive. The corridors rearranged themselves subtly. Doors appeared where none had been moments before, and familiar paths no longer led to the same rooms. It became increasingly unclear whether the house was changing or if Elias was losing his sense of direction. At the far end of a corridor, a child's room stood untouched by time, its wallpaper, decorated with faded stars, peeled at the edges. A porcelain doll with a cracked face rested on the floor, positioned as if waiting. The silence inside the room was oppressive, pressing against his chest like invisible hands. Time seemed suspended, and the outside world no longer felt real. A door hidden behind a collapsed cupboard revealed a narrow staircase descending into the basement. The air grew damp and frigid as Elias went down. Mirrors lined the walls below, their surfaces fractured but still faintly reflective, creating warped versions of his figure at every angle. At the center of the basement stood a single wooden chair facing a stained wall. Leather straps dangled from its arms. Above it, smeared in something dark and dried, were ominous markings left by an unknown hand. Without warning, the mirrors began to splinter further, sending sharp echoes through the basement. A cold wind surged upward, extinguishing his light for a moment. In the darkness, something moved with unnatural fluidity, long, pale limbs unfurling from the shadows. A tall, faceless figure emerged slowly from the cracked wall, its form thin and distorted like a creature born from the house itself. Elias turned to escape, but the staircase had closed behind him, leaving only a solid wall where the entrance had been. The structure of the house groaned as if alive, its walls tightening around him like a trap. The presence in the basement advanced, silent yet overwhelming, filling the space with a suffocating sense of dread. Days later, his car was discovered abandoned outside the gate, its engine still warm. Investigators who entered the mansion found no trace of Elias. In the basement, the wall above the wooden chair bore a fresh line of writing in thick, dark streaks. The air inside the house carried a new heaviness, as though another presence had joined the whispers trapped within its walls. Blackwood Lane returned to silence. The mansion remained, unchanged on the outside but alive within. Some claimed that on windless nights, if one stood by the gate and listened closely, faint sounds could be heard drifting from inside a chorus of indistinct whispers, layered and endless, as if the house itself was collecting voices and keeping them.